The truth sets you free. With the world's fastest reader, Howard Stephen Berg. Hi everyone, Howard Berg, world's fastest reader. Welcome to another fun-filled show. I'd like to begin, as I always do, with thanks to one of our sponsors, which is the Hillcrest Baptist Church Sunday School, and that's in Cedar Hill, and it's Gloria Cowan is the instructor. And Gloria does a journey through the Bible every Sunday. And I know Dr. Sugg is one of her students who I mentioned many times as my other sponsor. And he just raves about how great her classes are. And I'm sure you'll enjoy them as well. And I'm currently putting up a website for her at gloriacowan.com. And it should be ready shortly. And it'll have a lot of videos of her Sunday school classes that you can go online and see for yourself. Well, talk about seeing for yourself. One of the things I always like to talk about at the beginning of each show is how to get smarter. And one of the ways to get smarter is changing perspective. What does that mean? Imagine I have a slide on my presentation. There's a big glass of water, and somewhere around the middle is where the water is sitting in the glass. And I ask people, what is this glass? And half the people say it's half full. The other half say it's half empty. But I had a third answer from an engineer, and he looked at the glass. He said it's functionally too large for the volume of liquid it contains. And I want to ask you, which of those people do you think is going to be the biggest success? He was able to see what everyone else saw differently. And that's what changing perspective is about. In fact, one of the biggest scientific breakthroughs came through just through that. There was a big argument in the last century over the nature of light. Was it a wave? Was it a particle? Well, in the early part of the century, Einstein actually got his first Nobel Prize for proving light was a particle. And there's no question he was right. You don't get a Nobel Prize for something that's ambiguous. And then later, another gentleman, it was de Broglie, proved it was a wave. There's no question it was a wave. Well, here's the problem. A particle is physical, like a marble. It has weight, it has location, it's tangible. You can pick it up in your hand. Well, picking up an atom in your hand isn't quite that simple, but it's there, it's real. A wave is more of a mathematical description. It doesn't have weight, it doesn't have a physical corporeality. It's just a description, a wave. So it's very, very different. So which was it, a wave or a particle? And the answer was yes. Now, they didn't get new research. They didn't have anything to go on. They just had the same question. And the answer now was, looking at it from another perspective, how you ran your experiment, how you choose to look at light, changed its physical reality. If you ran it in a certain way, like Einstein did, light appears to be a particle. If you ran your experiment looking through a different lens at light, it appeared to be a wave. So how you perceived it changed its reality. That is a third way of looking at the same thing. They had two different sets of outcomes. The data was the same. The question was the same. But how they interpreted this outcome changed. And in life, there's often more than one way of looking at the same thing. And often the solution you're looking for is right in front of you, but you're so busy looking at only one perspective, you miss the other one where the real success lies. So think about that as we have a wonderful discussion today with Kim about the global red circle. So thank you, Kim, for coming today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Howard.
And can you tell us what is the global red circle? That's a good first question.
Well, it's an organization, first of all, and it actually started with a book. So I have a collection of stories called The Global Red Circle, Standing in Truth, Unleashing Our Most Powerful Selves. And it's a collection of stories from women, by women, about watershed moments in their lives and what it taught them. And as I was going through that process, I thought I just didn't want to do a book that people would read and put down and say, gee, that was nice. I wanted to affect positive change in women's lives. So I started having monthly gatherings in my home where we brought the book to life. And we get together and we talk about the things that we don't normally talk about. We talk about those watershed moments in our lives that we live through daily. What's going on? What wakes us up in the middle of the night? that wakes us up in a cold sweat or that we worry about, that we're not talking about to our friends, our relatives, the people that we're closest to.
Because it's personal.
Yes.
It's like a safe space.
It's a very safe space. And so I create sanctuary for women to get together and talk about the things that worry about them, that they worry about, and also the things that bring them joy, because unfortunately, the people we love aren't always happy for us when we have good things happen.
Sometimes they're jealous.
Sometimes they're jealous, yes.
And why do you call it the red circle? I understand the circle part because it's a gathering.
That's
and
right.
they're in the circle. But what does the red connote?
Well, I wanted something that would connect all women, and we're not all the same. We're a range of personalities, likes, dislikes, and backgrounds, things like that. So the red represents menses, the menstruation.
Okay.
And so, yes, so that's what connects us all, whether we're in the active process of it or not.
Now it makes sense.
Now it makes sense. Yes.
It's not a guy's circle.
It's not a guy's circle. Even though it's interesting,
Yes.
there have been times when I've done talks and men have been in the audience and they said, you know what, we need safe space too where we can talk.
It's true.
And share the things that we're not sharing on a regular basis, because whether you're a man or a woman, we all have feelings and we all are vulnerable at times, and we need somebody safe to talk to.
What color will we make that one?
I'll have to research that one,
Blue?
Howard.
That's right.
That's right.
Pink and red, pink and blue, right? So tell me a little more about these events. How do the women find you and come to an event like that? I mean, obviously there's a gathering. Is it word of mouth? Is there something you're putting out there for people to find you? Or is it a little of both?
A little of both. So I have a website, globalredcircle.com. Also, I send out, as I'm meeting people and I'm out and doing at networking events, I meet people. And so I put them on my email list and I send out evites every month to invite women to the gatherings at my home. And my vision is that those circles will expand around the globe. Now that I've got a ritual for it, I know how to expand them, how to train the women who would be facilitating those circles. Because it's not just a night out with the girls having a glass of wine. It's so much more than that.
So if one of our viewers would like to get in touch with you, you could help them to create this opportunity in their community.
I sure could, yes. Yes.
Nice. Well, you have your information on the screen there, so please write it down if this is something you might find interesting. Out of curiosity, because we live in such a computerized age, have you ever thought of making it more of something where it's an online experience where people could join that aren't in your circle but be part of that circle through, say, Skype or a webinar system, and you could bring in so many more women that way as well? Have you given any thought to that?
I have, and I'm going to test that and see if that's something that works. What's happened now with our lives, and we're so technology focused, that people are starting to feel the disconnect that we have because of technology. And so now people are craving, whether we know it or not, we want more of a one-on-one experience. We want to be able to look at each other. We want to be able to hug each other hello. And so people are looking for more of an intimate experience, and technology being online can take that away. So I'm going to test that and see if maybe it works for some people, because not everybody can get out and come to a gathering.
Right. Some of them
may
have
not be possible.
physical
Exactly.
family issues, children. But the other side would be if someone wanted to set up a circle, that would be a great way to at least experience it firsthand and live it, and then extend it in a more intimate one-on-one, or as you say, a live. That might be a nice thing to look at.
Yeah, that's why we're going to try that and see if it works. And we have had a friend of mine who was unable to come to a gathering one month, and she called in, and we had the cell phone in the middle of the table.
There you go.
And she said it was good to plug in that way. So, you know, it may be a viable way to do it as an alternative when we just can't be there face to face.
At least you still get to share and get that emotion.
Absolutely.
Sounds like it's a cathartic kind of experience. To some of the women become very emotional when they're sharing.
We do, and often there's tears, and we all cry together, and I'm passing the tissues around. A lot of times there's a lot of laughter, so it is a cathartic experience. And so what I'm finding is that women want to be there, and there have been a month or two I've been doing this 5.5 years now.
It's a long time.
It is a long time,
Yeah.
and there have been a month or two because of family challenges, things like that, where I haven't been able to have my gathering. And I'll get emails or calls, and women will say, "Did I miss something? Did I not get an invitation?" Because I really need to be there, and I'm finding that this is a necessary service. People need a safe place.
For 5 years, people wouldn't be doing something with that longer period if they didn't feel it was giving them some value. And
Right.
and are many of the women staying for the long haul, or do you find it's sort of a coming and going, or a little of both?
It's a little of both. So I have women that are kind of my regulars and are there most of the time. But I would say at least every gathering, I've got at least 2 or 3 new people, and people come as their schedule allows, or as they feel a need for that kind of sanctuary. So there may be a time in a woman's life where she needs more support. She may have had a death in the family, or lost a job, or something's happened in a friendship or with another relationship. And so she might want some support, and there are times when women will just show up and they've been on my email list for maybe 4 years, 3 years, and then they come out of the blue. And it's interesting when they show up like that, that's usually when the magic happens, when there's somebody else in the room that has the exact message that they need to hear.
And when someone doesn't come for a while, and there's no like, where were you for the last 6 months? It's just basically the door's open.
Yeah, the door's
come back in
open.
the circle.
Come back in the circle when you're ready. And there'll be times when, if someone has been to a circle and they haven't seen somebody for a while, they'll ask me, how is that particular woman doing? And so we do keep in touch.
But
and
you're not
people worry how they
judgmental.
are.
You're not judging
No,
them.
absolutely
so it
not.
becomes very safe. They can come and go as they need.
Because there's far more judgment in life than we need.
And this would seem that would be part of what would make it safe. No one's
Right.
going to question, how do you nurture each other? Is it, I mean, you sometimes see, I haven't been with AA, I don't drink or anything, but I've seen the, like Mom, and I've seen the meetings on that.
Yes.
And is it like that, or is it a different kind of a format? Is it, how do the different people at the meeting share with one another, and how do they get nurturing from each other? I have no idea how that would work, other than what I've seen, and I'm pretty sure that's comedy. It's not quite like that.
Not quite like that, but similar. So the ritual starts with every woman that comes in. I have a whole group of rocks that have words on them, and they may say things like faith or God, or a question that says, why me? Or the word no or yes, or something like no limits. Playing small. So a woman will come in, she'll look at all the rocks and decide she wants to pick one, either because she knows exactly what it is she wants to share that day, or she's not quite sure, but there's a word that kind of jumps out at her. So she'll pick those rocks, we all sit down in the circle. I do what I call a grounding exercise. So we all kind of close our eyes, get relaxed, we turn our cell phones off. I ask each woman to kind of go within. We take some deep breaths and kind of connect with that place where we hear our intuition speaks to us.
Silence, yeah.
Yes, the silence. And it may be where other people, where it's kind of like their inner prayer space, where they connect with their God and hear the voice of God. So we go there and we relax for a little bit and we turn off the rest of the world. And I go through our ground rules, which are kindness, no judgment. Everything that's said in the room stays in the room, and that we don't preach to each other. So we allow each woman to talk about what she needs to talk about, and we don't tell her how to run her life. We talk about what we've been through and the lessons we have learned in a similar situation. And in that case, then the other woman might find some value there, and even if she doesn't want to use that same woman's wisdom, at least she knows there's hope
And it was
for
an
her
or there's
situation.
an alternative.
Or there's an
So you're
alternative.
not, even if you see someone, you'd say, gee, that's pretty awful what she's doing. You wouldn't say that. You would say, this is how I would do this and how it worked for me. And so you're not saying that was a really bad thing you did, but there's other ways you might want to look at doing that, and maybe that will work better for you. So that way
Yes.
you're not saying, you're not shutting down what they're saying.
Right, and there's some understanding, and we let people feel what they need to feel. So if a woman comes in and she's particularly emotional, We let her cry, because too much in life we say, oh, don't cry, honey, don't cry. But then you leave with those same emotions pent up.
Yeah.
And you leave stressed out, just like you walked in the room. So I want women to leave the gathering feeling free.
And how many women would be in a typical gathering?
I don't have any more than 12 at a time, because
That's
we're there
nice.
for about 3 hours.
And it gives everyone space.
Yeah, it gives everybody space, and if everybody needs to unload, there's time for everybody to unload.
So if you have a larger group, do you do 2 meetings? Or do you just...
Well, I close the invitations after 12 people, and then I usually have 2 or 3 dates for the next gatherings on my invitation.
Okay.
And it's interesting how the exact number of people that need to be there are there. I mean, there's some meetings I have 4, some meetings I might have 8. Sometimes I've got a full house and I've got 12 women there, and I may have some that were on a waiting list in case somebody canceled and at the last minute wasn't able to come.
Okay.
So it's interesting, and sometimes we've got 3 people in the room and it takes us 3 hours to talk about everything.
Is it a free service? Is there a donation, or how does it work?
Starting in January, I'm going to have a small fee for it, because I do have some expenses that I incur. I have the rocks and some refreshments, and there's a fee to send out the evites that I have, and so I trying to create that sanctuary and that safe space for women. There are some things that I have in my home in order to create that beautiful space for them. Candlelight, things like that. I use essential oils sometimes when we're in the circle. So it's quite the experience.
I'm familiar with the oils. My wife's a medical massage therapist, and sometimes she'll use those for people to relax them or de-stress. Certain oils will do that.
Yeah, scent is very powerful in our lives.
The oldest sense. I was a biologist. It's hardwired into the base of the brain, the oldest part of the brain, and so in fact, a lot of our attractions to people don't realize there's a scent or something
scent.
And they don't realize it. But it really is, but creates the chemistry initially in that first chemistry. Often.
Yeah, that's always fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's why I studied it. It was just so amazing to me, the subtleties of the brain and how it works.
It brings back memories, and it helps relax us. And so I use the essential oils, and some of them I put directly on the rocks, and others I put on a tissue and I'll pass around.
So it's not just the word, there's a scent.
Right, there's a scent that goes with it, yes.
So what's transformative storytelling? What exactly is that, and how do you use it?
So while I was collecting the stories for the book, I always dreamt of presenting these stories on the stage, because I always believed, for some reason, and it was kind of odd because I love going to the theater, but it's not like I ever had a dream to do theater or to produce theater events. But I always thought it would be powerful to have the stories told orally. And there's a long tradition over the centuries of storytelling.
Yes.
And the power and the tradition of storytelling. And when a person stands on their 2 feet and relates a story of something that they've been through, there's a certain power that the storyteller feels and the audience feels as the story is being told. And so I went through the process first myself. Then there's a good friend of mine who uses storytelling in his business all the time. And so he helped me tell the story of my father's passing, my last 4 days with him before he died. And what I realized in that process of learning how to tell the story, then practicing it with him, is that I was able to gain mastery over a very devastating experience. My father was my hero, and I was very, very close to him. I was Daddy's little girl. So when he passed, it was devastating for me.
It's a big gap in your life.
Yes, a big gap in my life. So here it was, 4 years after he passed away, someone's helping me relate the story of those last 4 days I spent with my father. And I'm crying through the story and trying to move through it. And even though the emotion is still there, I was indeed standing in my truth and in my strength. And so now I still feel great emotion, deep emotion, when I tell the story of my father's passing, but I also feel powerful. And what the audience told me when they watched me tell my story and listened to it and felt my emotion and cried with me is that they were able to see their own loved ones in my story. And they were able to process their own grief. They were able to mourn through my story.
Is that the transformative aspect?
And that's the transformative aspect. So I got transformed as a storyteller in practicing that story, because it wasn't easy to practice that story over and over again.
It brings those emotions.
It brought all the emotion up, and the grief and the sadness and the physical pain that comes with grief.
Did it go past that now? When you tell the story, is there sort of a positive feeling of the remembrance of the good things and
absolutely,
and those kind of take over the negative?
It does, and so I now don't equate sadness with weakness. It's a human emotion, and every single human feels these emotions, except we have learned, I think,
sociopaths.
Yes, except sociopaths. Yeah, there's a group that doesn't do that
Small
naturally.
group, thank God.
Small group, thank God. But the rest of us are feeling it.
Yes.
And we need to be able to do that.
Yes.
And so it does. It enables you to feel it, but also feel the power of that emotion. I feel the power of my father's love. I feel my love for him. I see him when I tell the story. So it's really bittersweet, and probably more sweet than bitter now when I tell that story.
Funny, because I was talking to my wife about this morning. They discovered a set of neurons in the brain. They're called mirror neurons, and they give you empathy. Like if you see someone hit their finger with a hammer, and you go, ooh. You don't get hit, but you feel like it.
Yes.
And so we are able to, by watching and observing and feeling other people, we experience that experience as well. And it sounds like that's what you've created, is a place where people can empathize and feel other people and learn from those feelings, problems they've had, and see another way of coping with those same problems that they didn't think of before.
Absolutely. And the other thing it does, which was kind of my ulterior motive when I started this, was that it breaks down barriers. So when I hear you tell a story and I feel the same emotion that you're feeling, I now know that you and I have something in common that's very, very important. So I'm no longer so quick to judge you and say that you're different than I am. And so it doesn't matter anymore what we look like or where we come from or how we were raised or how we vote or how we worship. What matters is that deep down inside, it's our common humanity. Yes, Howard. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. And because we judge each other, we size each other up when we meet and we say, oh, they're different, they're either more or less successful, they may have more money than I do or they don't. They're a different race, and so they can't understand who I am. And then we realize that we both have sadness, and joy, and relief, and that we all want our children to grow up and be successful and have great lives. And then we realize we're not so different after all.
I personally, I've thought about what you're saying, and I think the key to world peace is when people realize, yeah, people are different, but they're not.
Right.
The governments might confront each other, but the people themselves, they just want decent lives. They want their kids to get an education and have something to eat and have grandchildren and things like that. And I don't think it matters who you are or where you are. So
I agree.
If we something like this could be very productive in helping people around the world to feel a closeness that they don't always feel today.
That's right. And now that we seem to be getting more and more polarized, I think this is definitely a way for us to start coming back together again, and maybe and realizing what our common humanity looks like.
Yeah, we definitely need that. I mean, you watch the news today, and there's just so much. It's almost when calling it United States today. They're not united.
Yeah, are we really? Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
I see a lot of discord. And it saddens me.
It saddens me too.
You know, I think if people would focus more on the common goals and needs, like you're doing in your group, we'd have a happier, more productive country. And we'd be nurturing each other instead of fighting each other.
That's right. And that's where you asked, where does the nurturing come in? And a lot of it is about just listening to each other, taking the time to sit back and letting you say what you need to say and feel what you need to feel and allowing you to do that. And then being present for you without stopping you. and without telling you to feel something different, or letting my discomfort with you being so emotional be a part of what's happening in the room. And so that's how we nurture each other, by allowing each other to again, feel what we feel and being there for each other, handing you a tissue. If you need a hug when it's over, then that's what we do.
Cool. You look on the screen, you can see the phone number for reaching her. You can also see the website. This sounds like something people watching would find very useful. Here's Kim's web information and contact information. There's also a book. Certainly you could look for this book on Amazon, or I see it's on iTunes, so you could actually play it in your car, which is what many people like doing today. They like to listen to books.
Well, it's just an ebook, so it's can't listen to it yet, not audio yet.
Oh, okay. Well, you may want to think about that.
Yeah.
That would be another way to present it. But if you'd like to participate in this experience, you can reach her. If you'd like to be considered as someone who could start your own group, you can reach her. Because I think the goal is for you to have little groups like these. I say little because you want to limit it to 12 people around the world.
Yes.
And make it a family of women that can get together, maybe have an event every year where you all come in one big place. So please write down the information. Global Red Circle. You could see globalredcircle.com. I think the phone number is 469-619-6435.
That's correct.
Oh, good. I'm glad I can see. I can
still you can see that.
Speaking of seeing, if you'd like to reach me, you could call me at 214-952-9150 for a free consultation. I could help you and your children learn anything quicker and better. Perhaps you have a church or an organization, maybe looking for a speaker. Call me at 214-952-9150. You can go to my email, mrreader@msn.com. If you have an idea for a show, or maybe you'd like to be a guest on a future show, let me know. I'd be very happy to find out. If you have something interesting to share that other people would like to know, I want to know too. I also have my website, HBspeedreading.com, where you can get my reading program, my memory, math, my learning system, and as always, whenever you get one of my programs, it includes my cell phone. If you need help, I'll personally mentor you and make sure you learn the information and don't just get the program, but learn the program, use the program. I want to be transformative in your life as well. And so again, 214-952-9150 or hbspeedreading.com or mrreader@msn.com. I want to thank you. It's a very interesting show, very different. I'm sure a lot of our viewers will want to reach you, and I hope the people watching will continue to come each week to learn something new about life and how to be more successful and have another interesting guest. Until then, this is Howard Berg, the world's fastest reader, wishing you and yours the best of success. See you next week. The truth sets you free. With the world's fastest reader, Howard Stephen Berg.